The council chamber floated silently above the blue gas of Vera Prime. Stars shimmered through the massive glass dome, and alien delegates in strange, flowing robes whispered in languages no human could understand. Humans had never been invited here, not even as observers. The Council of Worlds was sacred, a place where the galaxy's most powerful civilizations decided fates, formed alliances, and passed judgment on those who crossed lines too dangerous to name. Yet, here they were. Captain Eric Vale tightened his grip on the controls of the Horizon Breaker, the massive human ship that had somehow forced its way through Vera Prime's defenses. Warning alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the bridge. The Council's orbital shields weren't supposed to allow any ship inside without prior clearance. And humans had none. "Sir, the Council's security drones are targeting us," shouted Lieutenant Kira Han, her voice tight with tension. "We have no authorization codes." Eric didn't respond immediately. His eyes were fixed on the glowing chambers below. He could see the delegates turning, their many eyes wide with shock, some whispering, some raising weapons he could not name. A low hum filled the chamber, a sound that made the hairs on the back of his neck rise. The council was alive, in some strange way, and it did not like intruders. He finally spoke, voice steady but firm. "Prepare to land. We're not leaving until we make our presence known." A tremor ran through the ship as council drones began firing. Energy beams lanced toward the Horizon Breaker, scorching the hull. Crew members scrambled to their stations, voices overlapping in panic and urgency. Alarms screamed, lights flickered, and still, Eric's gaze never left the council chamber. He saw them clearly now. The delegates were unlike anything humans had ever encountered. Some had crystalline skin that shimmered like prisms, others seemed to float without wings, and a few had forms that constantly shifted as if their bodies refused to stay in one shape. "Sir, shields are at 30%. Kira yelled. "We can't hold them much longer." Eric's jaw tightened. They had no choice. Humans had crashed the council, yes, but the reason was simple, urgent. Earth had intercepted transmissions of a weapon, something so destructive that entire solar systems could vanish in an instant. The council had done nothing. Waiting was no longer an option. "Target their main energy node," Eric ordered. "We're not here to fight, but we will defend ourselves if we must." Below, the council's central chamber glowed with a strange light. One of the delegates, larger than the others and covered in dark, jagged armor, raised a hand. A pulse of energy shot toward the Horizon Breaker. The ship shook violently. Sparks flew across the bridge. Crew members screamed as they were thrown against consoles. And then, silence. The pulse had been absorbed, not by the shields, but by the ship itself. Eric's eyes narrowed. Something about the Horizon Breaker made it different from anything the Council had faced before. Humans had built this ship to endure impossible odds. They had crashed the Council chamber knowing it was a risk, but now it seemed the ship itself had its own will. "Sir, the delegates, they're looking at us differently," Kira whispered. Eric didn't take his eyes off the chamber. "They're trying to understand us. That's dangerous. If they misjudge our intent." Before he could finish, the largest delegate stepped forward. Its voice resonated across the chamber, deep and vibrating in the very bones of the humans. "Humans, you dare enter the Council of Worlds without permission. You threaten balance. Speak. Why have you come?" Eric swallowed hard. He knew this was the moment that would decide everything. One wrong word could trigger an intergalactic war. But he had no choice. He had to make them listen. "We've come to warn you," he said, his voice echoing in the massive chamber. "There is a threat approaching the galaxy, a force that consumes planets, civilizations, and stars. It is coming, and if you do nothing, everything will be destroyed." A murmur spread through the council. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. Others laughed, a chilling hollow sound that made Eric's stomach tighten. "Threats are always reported, human. We hear them. What makes you think your warning matters more than the council's judgment?" Eric took a deep breath. Because it's already begun. On the surface of Vera Prime, far from the council chamber, the first signs appeared. Dark shapes moved across the outer system. Ships unlike any the galaxy had seen, sleek and black, radiating energy that bent light around them. Worlds fell silent before they were destroyed. And the council, for all its power, had no defense prepared. The chamber went quiet. The hum of energy grew louder. The delegates' many eyes fixed on the humans, and Eric realized something terrifying. The council had faced many threats before, but none like this. None from beyond, something ancient, something unstoppable. And in that moment, Captain Eric Vale understood that crashing the council was only the beginning. Humanity had entered a battlefield no one else in the galaxy had even imagined. He glanced at his crew, determination in his eyes. We didn't come here to make friends. We came to survive, and if we fail, the galaxy fails with us. Somewhere in the shadows of the chamber, the largest delegate's eyes glowed brighter. And deep in the distance, a new kind of terror began its silent approach, a force the council had never faced, a force that even humans were only beginning to understand. The countdown to destruction had begun. The darkness outside Vera Prime stretched endlessly, but the horizon breaker cut through it like a blade. Captain Eric Vale sat rigid in his chair, staring at the galaxy's map projected before him. Every point of light represented a system, a civilization, most of them oblivious to the threat approaching. "Sir," Kira said, her voice trembling, "the council hasn't responded to our warning. They're arguing among themselves instead of preparing." Eric clenched his fists. Of course they are. The council always argues. That's what makes them slow, predictable. But predictability can be useful. Useful? Kira asked, confused. Eric didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stared at the dark shapes moving silently through the outer systems, the first of the enemy's fleet. They were massive, alien, and terrifyingly precise. Each ship seemed alive, moving as if part of a single organism. Their weapons were not like the Council's energy beams or plasma cannons. They tore space itself apart, ripping through star systems without warning, leaving nothing behind. "They're coming faster than we thought," Eric said. "We don't have time to convince the Council. We need allies, anyone who will fight." The Council chamber below was in chaos. The delegates had stopped laughing, their many eyes wide with fear. Some tried to send messages to their home worlds, but the enemy's fleet was already jamming communications. The humans had crashed their council, yes, but now the humans had become their only link to survival. "Lieutenant," Eric said, turning to Kira, "prepare the ship for jump. We're heading to the outer rim. We need to warn the neighboring systems before the enemy arrives. If we can save even a few planets, it will make a difference." The bridge crew moved like a well-oiled machine, despite the tension. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and yet every movement was precise. The horizon breaker was built for impossible odds, and it showed. Suddenly, the ship shuddered violently. A warning light blinked red. "Sir, unknown ships detected," a crew member shouted. "They're fast, much faster than anything we've seen." Eric's eyes narrowed. The enemy had already noticed them. "Evasive maneuvers," he barked. "Take us out of their sensors. Don't let them track our jump." The ship twisted, turned, and dove into shadows between star clusters. Outside, the enemy fleet moved like a single predator, scanning for the humans. Their energy pulsed across space, sensing, analyzing, striking without warning. Meanwhile, below in the council chamber, the largest delegate, the one covered in jagged armor, addressed the others. Its voice resonated like a low drumbeat, shaking the walls. "Humans. They are reckless. They act where we hesitate. Perhaps they understand what we do not." One of the crystal-skinned delegates tilted its head. "Do you suggest we follow them? Align with humans?" The armored one's eyes glowed brighter. "We have no choice. If we do nothing, the galaxy dies. Humans may be chaotic, but they act. We must act with them, or after them. Back on the horizon breaker, Eric and Kira watched as star systems flashed red on the map. Planets destroyed, civilizations wiped out, entire fleets gone before alarms could even sound. "We're running out of time," Kira whispered. "If we can't reach them soon." Eric cut her off. "We will reach them. We have to. Humanity doesn't leave anyone behind. Not this time." The ship jumped through the void, faster than anything the Council or enemy expected. But even as they raced, strange signals appeared on their scanners. Encrypted, alien, impossible to trace. Something was following them, hiding in the shadows of space. "Sir," Kira said, pointing at the console. "Something is masking itself. It's close. Too close." Eric's face hardened. "That's not a scout. That's a hunter. Prepare weapons. If it attacks, we'll fight. And we won't give it mercy." Outside, the first wave of the enemy fleet emerged from a collapsed star system. Ships moved with terrifying precision, surrounding the humans, cutting off escape routes, crushing planets behind them. The galaxy had never seen anything like this. The humans were about to face a force that didn't negotiate, didn't retreat, and didn't forgive. Kira's hands flew across her controls, warning lights flashing. "They're locking onto us." Eric gritted his teeth. "Hold your fire. Let them get closer. We have one chance to strike, and we can't miss." The enemy ships glimmered in the void, black as shadows, yet pulsing with deadly energy. Then, as if sensing the humans' determination, they accelerated, faster than physics should allow, cutting across space in sudden bursts. "Brace for impact!" Eric shouted. The horizon breaker shuddered as beams of dark energy slammed into the hull. Crew members were thrown to the floor, alarms screaming. Sparks flew, lights flickered. And yet, despite the chaos, Eric saw something extraordinary. The humans on his ship did not panic. They fought. They adapted. They survived. For the first time, he realized something terrifying and thrilling at once. The enemy they faced might be unstoppable, but humans were unpredictable. And unpredictability could change everything. As the horizon breaker dived into the enemy swarm, a message flashed on the console, a council delegate, encrypted, but readable: "Follow them. Learn from them. They may be the key to survival." Eric glanced at Kira, determination burning in his eyes. "We may not have allies yet, but we will make them. The galaxy is about to learn what humans are capable of." And somewhere deep in the void, beyond the last star, the deadliest enemy in the galaxy began to take notice. The hunt had truly begun. The horizon breaker raced through the void, leaving destroyed systems behind, but the enemy was relentless. Dark ships moved like shadows, bending light and space itself, circling the humans with a silent, deadly patience. Captain Eric Vale's hands were steady on the controls, but his mind raced with every possible scenario. "Sir," Kira said, her voice tight with tension, "they're adapting to our maneuvers. Every time we dodge, they anticipate the next move. It's like they know us before we do." Eric's jaw tightened. "They don't know us. They just learn fast. That's why humans fight differently. We improvise. We survive. We'll show them a side of humanity they've never seen." The crew braced as another wave of energy ripped across the hull. The ship rocked violently. Sparks flew across the bridge. Systems flickered in and out. Yet, amid the chaos, Eric saw it. Something strange on the edge of the sensors. A tiny object moving fast, small but precise, weaving through enemy fire. "Kira, what is that?" Kira studied the console. "I don't know, it's not one of theirs. It's small, maybe a scout of some kind. But it's heading toward the enemy fleet." Eric's eyes narrowed. "Prepare to follow it. This could be the advantage we need." The small craft darted ahead, leading the horizon breaker into a region of space littered with debris from destroyed planets. The enemy fleet followed, but the humans had the advantage now. The terrain of twisted metal and broken moons provided cover. "Engage stealth mode," Eric ordered. Let's see how they handle something unpredictable. The ship's hull shifted, blending with the darkness. Sensors pinged faintly as enemy vessels scanned for them. The horizon breaker moved silently, circling behind a massive shard of a shattered world. Then it appeared. A massive enemy flagship, larger than any ship Eric had seen, emerged from the shadows. Its surface pulsed with dark energy, and its weapons began locking on. This was no ordinary vessel. It radiated power, intelligence, and danger. "They're leading us to their capital ship," Kira whispered, awe and fear in her voice. Eric's gaze hardened. "Good. That means we can strike first. But we have to be smart. One mistake, and we're finished." The tiny scout ship darted past them again, weaving through enemy defenses and finally colliding with the flagship's hull. The impact was small but precise, a distraction, a warning, and a signal. Suddenly, hundreds of smaller enemy fighters swarmed out of the flagship, moving like a dark cloud toward the humans. "Divert all power to forward shields," Eric shouted. "Target the fighters. Hit every weak point." The bridge erupted in controlled chaos. Crew members moved with precision, firing back, dodging, and keeping the ship intact. Beams of energy tore through the void, clashing with enemy fire. Explosions lit up the darkness. Every second felt like an eternity. Below, the council watched from their chamber. The armored delegate turned to the crystal-skinned one. "They are audacious, perhaps reckless, but effective. We may have underestimated humans." Back on the horizon breaker, the flagship fired a massive pulse, shaking the ship violently. Consoles sparked. Crew members screamed. Eric struggled to keep control. "Hold your positions. We fight or we die here." Kira's fingers flew across the controls. "I have an idea, sir. If we overload their pulse cannon by reflecting it back with our shields, we can damage the flagship." Eric looked at her, eyes wide. "Do it. But it's risky. One miscalculation, and we're vaporized." Kira nodded. Focus absolute. Energy redirected. Shields glowed. The pulse cannon fired again. The horizon breaker's shields absorbed it, then reflected it directly at the flagship. A blinding explosion tore through space, lighting up the debris field. The flagship rocked, systems sparking, smaller fighters scattering. The humans cheered, but Eric knew it was only a temporary victory. This was no ordinary enemy. The flagship would recover, and the swarm would regroup. The galaxy's deadliest enemy was only beginning to show its power. "Prepare for their counterattack," Eric said grimly. "They'll be smarter now. Faster. Deadlier. And we have no reinforcements yet." Kira glanced at the glowing council chamber on their monitors. "They're watching. They might finally understand that humans are not easy prey." Eric clenched his fists. "Let them watch. They will see what humans are capable of when the galaxy is at stake. And when the enemy comes for us, we'll be ready." In the shadows, beyond the debris, the enemy flagship's eyes, or sensors, glowed brighter. Something ancient and intelligent whispered across the void. "They are clever. They survive. They fight. But cleverness will not save them forever." The hunt had escalated. The humans were no longer just survivors, they were hunters in their own right. And the galaxy had only begun to witness the storm humanity would bring. The horizon breaker drifted through the debris field, battered but not broken. Smoke and sparks trailed from the hull, and alarms blared intermittently. Captain Eric Vale's eyes never left the view screen, where the enemy flagship had begun to regroup. Its black hull pulsed with dark energy, like a heart preparing to strike again. "Sir," Kira said, tension clear in her voice, "we can't keep dodging forever. They're learning our patterns. Next wave, they'll anticipate everything we do." Eric's jaw tightened. "Then we force their hand. We draw them into a trap." "Trap?" Kira frowned. "Where? There's nothing out here but debris and destroyed planets." Eric's eyes scanned the map of the outer rim. Exactly. Nothing but us. And what they think is nothing can be a battlefield we control. Listen, we'll use the debris, the destroyed moons, everything as cover. We make them fight on our terms, not theirs. Below, in the council chamber, delegates murmured among themselves. The armored one spoke, voice resonating like a drumbeat. Humans are bold. Perhaps recklessly so. But they understand something we forget. Adaptation. Observation. Strategy. They survive when others perish. The council, previously paralyzed by indecision, now moved with purpose. Some fleets were dispatched to nearby systems, though far too few to confront the enemy directly. The humans were still the first line of defense. Sir, Kira said, pointing at the sensors. A fleet is approaching, council ships. But it's not enough. They can't reach the enemy in time. Eric nodded. Then we buy them time. All we need is to hold them long enough for reinforcements. We fight smart, not just hard. The enemy flagship surged forward, smaller vessels darting ahead like deadly swarms of black hornets. They fired energy pulses, ripping through debris, scattering fragments at incredible speed. The horizon breaker shuddered with each hit, but the ship moved like a predator in its element, weaving through the ruins. Divert all power to forward shields. Fire at their wings. Hit anything weak. Eric shouted. Kira's fingers danced across the console. I'm trying, sir. They're too fast. There are hundreds of them. Eric leaned forward. Focus on the flagship. The rest will scatter if its core is destabilized. The crew worked in perfect sync. Energy beams tore across space, some hitting the flagship, some missing and scattering harmlessly against debris. Explosions lit up the darkness, reflecting off shattered moons and floating fragments. The horizon breaker seemed almost alive, dodging, countering, striking. Suddenly, a massive shockwave hit the ship from the flagship. Consoles exploded, crew members were thrown to the floor, and fire broke out in the aft section. Kira gritted her teeth. They're trying to crush us. We can't hold this. Eric slammed his fist on the console. Yes, we can. Brace yourselves. He looked at the small scout craft that had led them here. Follow me. Time to end this. The scout darted ahead, leading the horizon breaker to a narrow corridor between two massive asteroid fields. The enemy vessels followed, compressed in a tight formation. Eric's eyes glinted. Now. Kira understood immediately. We collapse the debris, trap them. Yes. Eric said. Fire the gravity charges. Energy detonated across the asteroid field. Massive chunks of rock shifted violently, trapping smaller enemy vessels, crushing some, scattering others. The flagship tried to maneuver, but the narrow corridors slowed it. Its energy pulses hit debris instead of the horizon breaker, giving the humans precious seconds. Hit their core. Now. Eric shouted. The crew aimed at the flagship's energy core. Lasers struck simultaneously from every weapon station. The core shimmered, then exploded in a blinding flash. A shockwave rippled through the flagship. Its hull cracked, systems faltered, and smaller fighters scattered in confusion. The humans cheered, but Eric knew the victory was temporary. The enemy was intelligent, adaptive, relentless. This was only the beginning. On the council monitors, the armored delegate turned to the others. They may survive this encounter, but survival alone does not guarantee victory. Humans have potential, but potential comes with risk. We must act. Eric glanced at Kira. They're finally starting to understand us. But the galaxy won't wait for understanding. The enemy will strike again, and harder. We need to find its origin. We need answers. And we need them fast. Outside, the void pulsed with darkness. Somewhere beyond the shattered moons and burning debris, the deadliest enemy in the galaxy was already planning its next strike. The humans had survived, but they had no illusions. The real battle was still ahead, and it would test everything they knew about courage, strategy, and sacrifice. Eric's voice was calm but firm. Prepare the ship. We move deeper into the unknown. Every second counts. Every decision matters. Humanity has a chance. But we cannot fail. And in the shadows, the enemy fleet reformed, silent, watching, waiting. The hunt was far from over. The horizon breaker drifted in the uncharted void, far beyond any mapped star system. The crew moved quietly now, nerves taut. The battles had left them battered, exhausted, but Captain Eric Vale's focus was sharper than ever. They had survived, barely, but survival was no victory. The galaxy's deadliest enemy had not been defeated. It had been delayed, for now. Kira, Eric said, leaning over the console, we need to find its origin. Where is this fleet coming from? Who or what controls it? Kira's fingers danced across the controls. Sir, I've been scanning the last destroyed systems. There's a pattern. The destruction isn't random. It forms a trail, like a signal. Eric's eyes narrowed. A signal? Then it's intelligent. This isn't just a fleet, it's a force with a mind. Exactly, Kira replied. And it's leading us somewhere. If we follow it, we might find the source, or at least understand it before it reaches populated systems. The council below had begun to mobilize cautiously. Their fleets, while still insufficient, now acted in concert with the humans. The armored delegate's voice echoed across the chamber. Humans are reckless, yet clever. Their instincts have bought time. Time we cannot waste. Follow them. Learn from them. Humanity may be the galaxy's only hope. Eric glanced at the viewport. Stars blurred past as the horizon breaker accelerated. The crew felt the tension in the air, each movement precise, knowing the enemy could strike at any moment. Suddenly, sensors flared. Sir, multiple signatures detected ahead. Unknown. Not part of the fleet. Not part of any known system, Kira said, voice tense. Eric leaned forward. Describe them. They're massive energy structures floating in space. They pulse, almost alive. They're emitting gravitational distortions. Could be natural, but the energy signature, it's artificial. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. None had ever seen anything like it. Eric's mind raced. Prepare scanners for deep analysis. If this is the source, we need every piece of data. And keep weapons ready, just in case. As they approached, the structures became clearer. Towering monoliths of black metal and crystal stretched across space, connected by glowing energy bridges. The fleet they had been pursuing seemed almost insignificant beside these constructs. The enemy ships swarmed around them as if guarding something sacred or terrifying. Sir, Kira whispered. It's a fortress, or a hive. Something massive. The fleet wasn't random, it's a defense network. Eric's eyes narrowed. Then the enemy isn't just attacking, it's preparing. And we've stumbled right into it. Suddenly, the sensors flared again. A shadow moved across the structures. A shape larger than any ship in the galaxy, black and jagged, with energy pulsating along its surface. The enemy flagship was nothing compared to this. It moved with intent, intelligence, and power. The crew froze. The horizon breaker trembled. Eric's voice was calm but firm. This is it. The origin of the fleet. And whatever it is, it's not just a ship, it's alive. The enemy sensed the humans. Energy pulses shot out, probing, testing. Smaller ships swarmed in waves, like ants defending a queen. The humans responded, shields up, weapons ready, every move calculated to delay, dodge, and survive. Eric turned to Kira. We can't destroy it. Not yet. Our goal is intelligence. Observation. If we strike prematurely, we're finished. Kira nodded, sweat glistening on her forehead. I'm scanning its energy cores. There's a pattern, a rhythm. Almost like it's breathing, or thinking. Outside, the massive structure pulsed again. Waves of energy rippled across space, bending the light of distant stars. The enemy fleet surged, pressing the humans. For the first time, the crew felt the overwhelming scale of the threat. They were small, fragile, but they had to act. Eric gritted his teeth. Plot a course closer. We need visual confirmation. We need to know what we're facing before the fleet strikes again. And prepare the council. This isn't a threat they can ignore. The horizon breaker moved carefully between the energy bridges, every crew member aware that one wrong step could trigger annihilation. The massive shadow loomed ahead, alive with energy and intent, an intelligence that seemed older than the galaxy itself. Kira's voice trembled. "Sir, I think it knows we're here." Eric's eyes hardened. "Then we fight smart. Humans survive by outthinking, outmaneuvering, and never giving up. This is just the beginning. Whatever comes next, we will face it. Together." And somewhere deep within the fortress of black metal and glowing crystal, the deadliest enemy in the galaxy stirred. It had waited for intruders, and humanity had just announced itself. The real battle was about to begin. The horizon breaker hovered at the edge of the colossal enemy structure, silent except for the hum of its engines and the occasional crackle of damaged consoles. Captain Eric Vale studied the fortress with narrowed eyes. It was larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen, black and jagged, with glowing energy veins running across its surface. The enemy fleet swarmed around it, protective and relentless. "Kira," Eric said, his voice steady despite the tension, "we need to get closer. We can't just observe, we need data. We need to understand what we're up against before it decides to destroy everything." Kira glanced at him, concern etched across her face. "Closer? Sir, the defenses alone could wipe us out in seconds. Not to mention that thing inside. It's alive. And it's aware of us." Eric's jaw tightened. "Exactly. That's why we need to be smart. Stealth, precision, and speed. We get what we need, then get out." The crew worked in tense silence. Systems hummed, shields glowed, and the horizon breaker edged closer to the fortress, weaving through the swarm of enemy ships. Each wave of black vessels moved in perfect coordination, anticipating the humans' maneuvers, testing their patience and skill. "Kira, mark the energy cores on that bridge," Eric said. "Those could be weak points, or communication nodes. If we understand their structure, we can predict their next move." As they approached, the fortress pulsed with dark energy, like a heartbeat. The smaller enemy vessels darted closer, probing, firing warning pulses of energy. The horizon breaker dodged and weaved, shields flaring under repeated strikes. Sparks erupted on the bridge as consoles overloaded. "Sir, they're adapting faster than we anticipated," Kira said, her voice tight. "They're learning our patterns in real time. If we hesitate..." Eric didn't finish the sentence. He knew the consequence. Hesitation meant death. Not just for the humans, but for countless star systems that had no idea the threat was so close. "Prepare the scout craft," he said. "We send it in first. It's small, fast, and disposable if we must. It needs to map the interior and identify the core energy source. We'll follow, cautiously." The scout darted forward, slipping between energy bridges and defensive structures. It zipped past enemy vessels, weaving through deadly pulses of energy. On the monitors, the crew watched as it transmitted real-time data, corridors, chambers, and massive conduits of dark energy. "Sir, it's like a hive," Kira whispered. "All the energy veins connect to one central point. That must be the command node, or the heart." Eric nodded. "Then that's our target. But we don't strike recklessly. We observe, learn. And if we survive, we strike smarter." Suddenly, the fortress pulsed violently, sending a wave of energy outward. Enemy ships scattered as the energy wave tore through the debris. The horizon breaker rocked violently, alarms screaming, shields flaring. "They know we're here," Kira shouted. "Of course they do," Eric said grimly. "They're alive. They're aware. That's why humans fight differently. We improvise. We survive. And we'll do both here. The scout disappeared into one of the central corridors. The monitors went blank for a moment before showing a glowing chamber at the heart of the fortress. Energy pulsated in rhythmic waves, almost like a heartbeat. Shadows moved across the walls, mechanical or organic, Eric couldn't tell. "Kira, are you seeing this?" he said quietly. She nodded. "Yes, it's alive. Definitely alive. And intelligent. It's watching us." Eric leaned back, eyes hard. "Then it's time. We move next, slowly, carefully. Every step matters. One wrong move and it ends, not just us, but potentially the entire galaxy." The crew braced as the horizon breaker began its slow approach into the energy bridge, weaving through corridors of pulsing power. Enemy vessels tried to block the path, but the humans moved with precision, dodging and countering at every turn. And then, the first real contact. Shadows surged from the walls of the corridor, dark, massive forms, pulsating with energy. The fortress itself seemed to respond, like it was alive, and the humans were intruders in its body. "Weapons ready," Eric shouted. "We defend, but we don't overcommit. We observe first." Energy flared across the bridge as the shadows attacked. The humans dodged, fired back, and adapted. Every pulse, every strike, every maneuver tested them to the limit. And yet, for all the danger, Eric felt a thrill. This was humanity's moment, small, fragile, but fierce. "This is it," he said quietly. "We've made it this far. We survive, and we learn. And if we survive, we strike the heart of the galaxy's deadliest enemy." Outside, the fortress pulsed, its awareness growing, sensing the intruders, preparing its own counterstrike. The real battle had begun. The horizon breaker drifted in the heart of the enemy fortress, its hull battered, shields flickering, and engines humming under strain. Captain Eric Vale's eyes scanned the glowing core ahead, a pulsating mass of black energy, alive, intelligent, and older than any star system in the galaxy. "Kira," Eric said, voice calm but intense. "This is it. The heart of the fleet. Everything we've faced, every battle, every loss, it all comes down to this. One shot, one move, it could save the galaxy, or destroy us." Kira's hands flew across the controls, her fingers steady despite the adrenaline. "Sir, the energy core is massive. We can't destroy it with conventional weapons. It's almost sentient. It's aware of every pulse, every calculation we make." Eric nodded. "Then we don't destroy it, yet. We disrupt it. Confuse it. Force it to react to us. Humanity survives because we adapt. We survive because we fight smart." Outside, the shadows of the fortress shifted. Dark tendrils of energy extended like arms, probing, testing the humans. Enemy vessels surged forward, smaller than the heart itself but deadly in numbers. The horizon breaker weaved through the swarm, shields flaring with every hit. "Divert power to adaptive shields," Eric shouted. "Focus all fire on the energy conduits, but don't waste anything on hull damage." Kira complied, redirecting energy and firing concentrated beams at the pulsating veins feeding the core. Sparks of energy exploded across the bridge as conduits overloaded. The heart pulsed violently, ripples of power spreading across the fortress. "Sir, it's reacting," Kira yelled. "The core is adapting to our attacks." Eric's eyes narrowed. "Good. That's exactly what we want. Keep it focused on us. Let it into the trap." The Council's fleets, finally mobilized, began to move closer. Their ships weren't strong enough to attack directly, but they provided cover and distraction. The armored delegate's voice echoed through the monitors. "Humans, they lead. We follow. Perhaps they are the key after all." Eric gave a nod. "Now, Kira, execute Phase 2. We overload its feedback loop." The crew worked in perfect coordination, using every system, every trick, every piece of ingenuity they had. Energy beams from the horizon breaker and the scout craft targeted the main conduits, synchronized with the fortress pulses. Slowly, the heart began to flicker, a rhythm disrupted, a consciousness confused. Outside, the fortress convulsed violently. Enemy ships collided with debris as energy waves erupted from the core. Shadows twisted and recoiled. And then, the humans saw it, the first sign of real weakness. "It's faltering," Kira shouted, a mix of awe and fear in her voice. Eric clenched his fists. "Now, push harder. Strike at the nodes controlling the smaller vessels. We finish this." The crew poured every weapon, every energy pulse, every calculated strike into the heart. The fortress shuddered, walls cracking, conduits exploding, shadows disintegrating. The enemy fleet faltered, scattered, and retreated. For the first time, the deadliest enemy in the galaxy was on the defensive. A final pulse of energy rippled outward. The humans held their positions, shields at maximum, engines roaring. And then, silence. The heart flickered one last time, a final shudder across its immense body, and then collapsed, inert. Darkness stretched across the fortress. Enemy ships drifted lifeless. The threat, at last, had been halted. The horizon breaker floated silently. Crew members cheered, tears and laughter mixing with exhaustion. Eric allowed himself a brief smile. We survived. The galaxy survived. Humanity has proven it can face the impossible and endure. The Council's voice echoed across the monitors, filled with awe and respect. Humans, reckless, unpredictable, brilliant. They have survived where others would have failed. Perhaps, they are the guardians of this galaxy. Eric looked at Kira and the crew. This isn't just our victory. It's proof that intelligence, courage, and perseverance can defy even the deadliest enemy. Humanity doesn't give up. We survive. We endure. And we fight for everyone who cannot. Far beyond the fortress, across the galaxy, stars twinkled as civilizations breathed easier. The humans had faced the unimaginable, had stood against the galaxy's deadliest enemy, and had prevailed. But Eric knew this was only the beginning. New threats would emerge, challenges would rise, but humanity had shown one undeniable truth. When the galaxy needs defenders, humans answer the call. As the horizon breaker began its journey back, the crew silent but proud, Eric whispered, almost to himself, "The galaxy will never forget this day, and neither will we." Somewhere, deep in uncharted space, faint pulses of energy hinted that not all was truly gone. But the humans were ready. And ready was enough. The legend of humanity had grown. The galaxy would remember.